Hey everyone, Leanne Pilkington here for the latest Courageous Conversation, and I'm very excited to be welcoming Owen Wilson, who is the CEO of realestate.com.au. Welcome.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks so much for taking the time.
That's a pleasure.
So let's just go back. How long have you been in the CEO role now?
Coming into my third year.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's gone so incredibly quickly. It's been a couple of interesting years.
Yeah.
Royal Commission one year, pandemic the next.
I was going to say, you really, Tracy Fellows really knew when to exit, didn't she?
She timed it beautifully. I think if she'd warned me on the way out that we were heading into Royal Commission and then a pandemic, I might have thought twice about it.
Yeah.
But look, to be through it, this year, touch wood, we're finally getting the year we probably deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were CFO prior, so you worked under Tracy. How was that transition from CFO to CEO, replacing somebody who was actually pretty popular? Tracy had done a pretty good job in the industry, because obviously previous people had maybe not been so industry focused, but also within the teams, everybody seemed to really relate to Tracy.
Yeah, look, Tracy was an incredible person to work for. I was lucky enough to have just over 4 years as Tracy's CFO, and we were as thick as thieves, as they say, joined at the hip.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot together, and I think that set me up for the transition to the role. She was a very sharing CEO and involved me in a lot of things that the CFO probably wouldn't get involved in normally. I went on customer trips and things like that.
I know. I still remember doing shots with you in Tokyo, my friend. That's really where we first connected, I think. Was
exactly right. Shots. So I got a bit of a head start from that perspective. Yeah. Probably it still was challenging. She was larger than life and a bit of a legend in the industry.
Yeah.
But having those customer relationships prior to moving into the role helped. Yeah, and it was probably my primary focus in the first 6 months, was just to spend as much time as I could physically manage, given a new role, with our customers, and just building up those relationships and getting to know everybody even better from a different role. Yeah. And then the other big challenge, was obviously moving from a peer to a boss. So all of a sudden, my peers were my direct reports, and it's fair to say the first couple of months of that was really quite awkward.
It would be.
But we have such.
So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's horses for courses. So each kind of relationship had to be almost re-established from a different perspective. Yeah. We spent a lot of time just them working out what makes me tick. How do I operate? I'm a very, very different person to Tracy, and so what was I looking for from them? And similarly, and we did this little bit of a kabuki dance for the first 3 months, sort of working our way around each other. Yeah. But it's fair to say it's gone pretty well. The team are awesome.
Yeah, you have got a great team. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot of talented people that work at REA. But before we talk about that, tell me about lockdown. I know we had dinner recently, and you were very grateful to be out and about finally, because Melbourne's had it really tough.
It was awful, and anyone who's listening to this who was based in Melbourne will probably recognise how bad it was, and I honestly suffered, and probably more than a lot of people. I was lucky in some respects, and I had an office at home, and etc. But I'm an extrovert, and I get my energy from people. Yeah. And for 6 months in a row, to be stuck in one room for usually 12 hours a day staring at a screen. Yeah. Without that human interaction, I really, really struggled. And also trying to keep everybody else in the company up.
That's the hard part, right? I mean, on one hand, you want to be human, but on the other hand, you don't really want your team to know how much you're struggling.
Oh, absolutely. And then especially, we kind of forget. It's funny how quickly we forget. But go back to April, May last year. We didn't know how long this was going to go for, and for our industry, it caused such turmoil in terms of, having to shut things down, and particularly in the second lockdown in Victoria. I mean, we just went into complete hiatus.
Yeah,
it was
right.
pretty diabolical. And I remember in May, our people were genuinely worried about how long this would go and whether our company would be
survive it.
one of the survivors. And so we spent a lot of time being, very authentic with them about, look, of all the companies, we've got a great balance sheet, we've got a lot of money in the bank, and yes, our markets are being really hurt by this, but we talked them through our plan in a lot of detail as to how we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And so, that was a really comforting thing, that the feedback from the staff over that period. We went to weekly all hands town halls. I think I did 30 town halls last year.
Yeah, you can't over communicate in that kind of environment, can you? That's the big lesson that I learned, because I was doing daily stuff with my business owners and also with the REI members, and you literally cannot over communicate when things are that tough.
Not only can you not over communicate, but you've also got to not sugarcoat it. One of the things that resonated, we said, look, this is tough. And we told them what impact it was having on the company.
Yeah.
Then we said, right, that's the bad, here's the good. Yeah. We've got this, we're in control, we've got a great team. And I think our team was, rallied behind our customers. Some of the things we brought into market so quickly.
Yeah.
We linked every auction system onto our site within weeks. We brought in pay on sale, we put all the support measures in.
Yeah.
And I think that also gave our team great comfort that we were kind of in it together with our customers.
Yeah, that was certainly the feedback that I had from people in the field, because obviously people are, they love to hate on REA because they pay you so much money. But the reality is you did provide a lot of support, and you really listened to what the customers needed during last year.
Yeah, look, we've got a checkered history with our customers, and no doubt, a few CEOs ago, I wasn't around, but
I was. No comment, right?
But we I think since Tracy and me, we've been really clear that our entire strategy is predicated on the success of the real estate industry and real estate agents.
Yeah.
And I made it really clear with our board when this all blew up in April last year. I said, now it's time to walk the talk. Like we've talked about, we're here for the industry. If we don't step up and make meaningful contribution to everybody getting through this, then, quite frankly, we're full of crap. And so we were adamant, no matter what the cost, and it did cost us a fortune, but we had to be there for the industry to really prove that what we're saying about, our strategy actually was true.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I know people always tell me that I'm naive about the real intentions of REA, and that eventually you're going to employ agents and take agents out of the field. I mean, it's not my view, because agents, your salespeople are actually paying you for the service of selling your product, right? So why would you change that model?
Never is the answer. And the reason is, and you've heard me say this, Leanne, it's my view, it's REA's view, and it has been for a very long time, that what a real estate agent brings to the process of a property transaction cannot be digitised.
Yeah.
And that is the ability to negotiate on someone's most valuable asset professionally and without emotion, and to get them a better outcome than they could possibly hope to get on their own. Yeah. You can't digitise that, and that value is gold. And we think it's always going to be there, and therefore our whole strategy is predicated on that always being the case.
But what about employing agents direct?
No, I just can't see the logic in that. Therefore, I think we're not aligned with the consumer and the best outcomes of the consumers. We believe, and honestly, anything that can't be digitised, we're not interested in, and that can't be digitised. Yeah. And
managing real estate agents is really hard. Take it from me.
Well, and ditto managing property. So, we've had customers say, you're just going to take over our property management. And I could think of nothing worse. All due respect to you, peace on you. That is one of the hardest jobs on the planet. Totally. And again, it's a people-intensive business.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not for us. We're not into people-intensive businesses.
Yeah.
And for us, the proof in the pudding in this is actually happening in the US, where you've got one player heading down the employing agent path,
Yeah.
and you've got us going down the exact opposite path, trying to support the industry. And that difference in strategy is now starting to bear fruit, funnily enough, for us, not for them.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about, you're referring to Zillow and their, so they are employing agents directly, and they're also into the iBuying space as well.
Yeah.
So not something that you're going to get involved in either, the iBuying?
Again, it's like a little gift, Zillow being in iBuying, in that, number one, none of the iBuyers are making any money at the moment. I saw the number this week. Between them, they lost $600 million last year.
Wow.
On average, Zillow is losing $80,000 on every house that they iBuy.
So talk me through that strategy, because I look at the numbers in the US with interest. Some of those big businesses like Compass and all the VC that's coming into those businesses, and nobody seems to be making any money. How does that work?
It is. It's all about a promise, and the promise is the law of big numbers. In that, if you look at the value of real estate that's sold and bought and sold each year in the US, and then if you take a percentage of that really large number, you still get a pretty large number. And so the theory is that if they can create an ecosystem where you can buy and sell your property, like a trading exchange almost with them, that if they can make any percentage, 2, 3, 4% on billions of dollars of turnover, it's going to be very lucrative. The problem is threefold really. One is the only way they can really make money is to pay the consumer probably under market, and probably get a worse outcome than what they would have got if they'd gone with a real estate agent and done the process properly. The second thing is to take away the cost. They can't involve agents in the process. And so their first step is to hire agents and try and do it salaried ways. But I think ultimately, even that cost has to go away. And then the third thing that, why it would never apply here is you have to have really precise valuation so that you're offering a price that you think you can get a better than down the track. And it works in pockets of the US because they've got large slabs of homogenous housing, whole suburbs where nearly every house is the same. And so you can value really tightly. It's why they've not done it countrywide. They've gone zone by zone. Yeah. And so their strategy is, it's kind of like the Apple strategy. If you go to Zillow, there's one flavor. It's the Zillow flavor. You only get one valuation, and they've now said their valuation is what they'll buy for. We've gone the exact opposite route. And Zillow strategy is playing into our strategy in that we've said, no, it's not one flavor. We will.
And this is in the US that you're talking to, right? This is
in the US. Yeah, in the US. So in the US, we've said, don't just look at one price. So you should come to our site and look at independent, accurate information on what you can do in the market. But our pitch to all consumers who come to our site, if you truly want to get a good estimate on what you can realise in your property, you need to speak to an agent. You need to engage an agent and get it done professionally. They will tell you what you can really realise, not someone who's interested in trying to make money on your property. Yeah. And so we've seen we had our record last half on the back of this differentiation in the strategy. We had the most.
That's great.
Yeah, we had the most consumers coming to our site because now they've realised, actually, I need to look at the alternative, and we're the alternative. And we had record numbers of leads to our agent customers that we've ever had, and that was in a fairly depressed market because of COVID. So consumers are actually realising it's probably a smarter thing to go and speak to an agent, and that's playing to our strategy.
Yeah, well, that's exciting.
It is. No, it's great. And Zillow had such a big lead on us in the US. Yeah. That lead is really closing now with this strategy of theirs. Now, they may make it work. They may work out a way to make a profit on every house they buy rather than a loss.
But I mean, just saying to consumers, and it's perfectly logical, like it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to be letting somebody who wants to make a profit on it buy your property. It makes sense for you to be making that profit.
No, exactly right. And I think the reason why they're still comfortable making a loss is that the real money for them is in the ancillary. products. So over there, you have to pay a title search fee, and there's huge businesses that do that. I think that they are backing themselves to always get the mortgage in that situation, so they'll make money on the mortgages. So all the ancillary services that go around the sale is where they'll make money, and they may just keep loss leading on this to make the money in the other services.
Yeah. And so are you seeing, I don't know whether you know the answer to this question, but are you seeing a change, like downward pressure on fees in the US? Because they've always been quite high in comparison to what we can achieve here.
No, not really. Although Open Door just recently, they're one of the other iBuyers and losing even more money than Zillow.
Crazy.
They've just announced that why don't you list through us? If you don't want to iBuy, then list through us. So effectively going down and connecting with an agent, and they've said you can list at 5% versus the 6% normal cost. So they have reduced the margin a little bit. It's also worth noting it's got so much attention iBuying. In 2019, the last kind of pre-pandemic year, it was 0.5% of the market.
Wow. Okay.
So it is tiny.
That's tiny. Yeah.
And then that halved last year, so now it's down to 0.25%. So it's a lot of noise, and I think the other smart thing around this for Zillow, if I give them some credit, is that only 2% of consumers accept the offer that they put.
Okay.
So,
wow.
And I think, unfortunately, these are people who, for whatever reasons, are in a real hurry to sell, and are willing to take a discount on their property. We just think it's flawed, and we're absolutely convinced the agent model is the one that's going to prevail and is here to stay. We've never seen any movement. 96% of houses in Australia are sold through agents, and that number hasn't moved in decades.
Is that right? That's interesting.
Yep.
You've always got interesting stats for me, Owen. So, gosh, we've been chatting for a long time already. Is there anything that REA are bringing out in the next little while that agents should be getting excited about, or is it just consolidation for you guys at the moment?
Oh no, look, we're always looking to bring new things to market. We tested pay on sale last year during the COVID, and that was some customers really liked it, because when you had nervous consumers who were really worried about trying the market, being able to say, look, you're not paying for the advertising unless it sells, that was quite compelling.
Yeah.
Other customers said, actually, no, they prefer the consumer to have a bit of skin in the game.
Yeah, that's right. They're clear on the motivation that way, right?
Yeah, exactly right. But that was a great test. We've brought that back in our new contracts this year. We've got a lot more exceptions. Probably one of the more exciting things we did is we've formed a partnership with Campaign Agent and Realtor, and we've now got a complete end-to-end digital kind of pitch to sign offering now, really efficient. And incorporated in that is our new CMA tool, which is the only one in the market that's got demand data in it. So in terms of differentiating yourself in the living room with a vendor, you can now bring in the real-time demand data from our site and say, look, right now at this point in time, there's 1,000 people looking for 2-bedroom houses in this price bracket in your suburb, and so being able to put that in front of a consumer, I think will get more consumers to take the plunge and actually list and come to market.
That makes sense.
So that's really exciting. It's early days. We only just launched that literally 2 weeks ago. So that's an exciting new thing we've got coming in the market.
And I'm hearing that a lot of landlords are starting to sell their property. Have you got any data yet that kind of tells you where the rental stock is? Sorry, I know this is a question without notice.
No, it's a good question. It's really hard to tell when a property comes to the sell section whether it's tenanted or not. It really gets captured in the description. We are hearing some pockets where landlords are looking to sell, usually where vacancy rates are not great. So, unfortunately, Melbourne CBD apartments, for example, are still in the doldrums and they're suffering at the moment. On the flip side, through most of last year, investors weren't in the market. As more kind of first home buyers. We've seen a huge surge with all these new rates that are coming out, particularly these 4-year rates at 1.8, 1.9%. we've seen a big surge in investor search activity. So the investors are now starting to come back to the market.
Yeah, because I'm hearing that there's more loans coming, being done for investors, but we haven't really, when I talk to the agents, they haven't really seen a great increase yet, but it sounds like that might be coming.
Yeah, the loans are coming. And the other thing that's kind of affecting the market at the moment, the banks are struggling with the volume. And you know, we've got a mortgage broking business, and it can, you know, out with our brokers last week, they were saying it can take 6 to 8 weeks with some lenders to get an answer, which means there's you know, if and I'll name names, if you're Macquarie, who can do it in a couple of weeks,
yeah,
the volume's heading in that direction. So
yeah, right.
the banks have got their houses in order, are going to get market share of this.
Well, that was a good plug for Macquarie. If people are struggling to get speedy loan approvals, Macquarie sounds like they're the ones doing the best at the moment.
They seem to be the most efficient in the market at the moment, for sure. I should be on commission.
Yeah, you should be. I'll let somebody know. All right, Owen, thank you so much for taking the time. I really do appreciate it, and I value our friendship. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Leanne. Always great to talk to you.
Take care. Enjoy your day.
Thanks. Bye.